They may be tiny, but their outfit is loud. Meet the poison dart frog. Hello, welcome to Wild Developments. My name is Lauren, and my mission is to help you connect with nature through art, storytelling, and some exploration. Today, we are going to learn all about the poison dart frog. Let's dive in. Materials needed for this project: watercolor paper, outline, a pencil, pen, brush, your palette, paint, spray bottle, paper towel, and container for your water, and masking tape. A couple things about the materials that we are using. Use a micron number 8 or any type of micron is good for the project, or a Sharpie, something that is waterproof so that you can lay down your outline and you can go back and paint, and it's not going to bleed everywhere and get that ink all over the place. If we were to paint first, then you can take any sort of pen that you like and go over it. But since we are dealing with wet materials, definitely use a waterproof pen. I'm also using a number 12 round brush, and I like this because it is big enough that I can cover a large amount of area, but it's also small enough that I can get in and do some of these smaller details. Watercolor paper of choice for this project is going to be the Lita Art Supply. Whatever kind of watercolor paper you want to use is fine. I just like to use a cold press and at least some sort of percentage of cotton in your watercolor paper. I'm going to be using a light box to trace the animal. You're going to lay down your outline, tape it down, and then put your paper down, and I will fast forward through this part. Okay, so I filmed tracing with the light box and then outlining the pencil with a micron pen, and I don't know what happened to that file. So I'm going to insert a clip of doing that with a different animal and just pretend it was with the frog. It's the same process. Now we're just going to go through and erase our pencil lines, because once we get them wet, you're not going to be able to erase them. You just make sure you erase all those pencil lines, and then we will dive in and start painting. All right, now we are ready to paint our froggy friend. The watercolor paper I'm using is a little bit smaller than my outline, so I did have to angle it a little bit, and I was able to fit him in all the way. If that ever happens to you, you can always print your file a little bit smaller to fit the page, or you could just angle it so that, you know, maybe part of the animal isn't fully on the page. Like we did with our manatee, we just saw part of the manatee, not the entire thing. But I was able to fit it on there all the way, so we went with that a little bit sideways. And maybe he's on a rock or a hill going up a hill or something like that. So what we are going to do first is we're going to paint the yellow areas. So that's right here and right in here. And that yellow kind of fades into the blue. And then we've got the blue on the legs and the back leg here, and then down into the arms. And then once we're done with that, then we can go in and paint the black. I'm using a Payne's Gray, but you can use a black. Along the side, this big spot on his back, and then all these little spots we're going to get. So we're doing the lighter colors first, because if we go over the line on the inside of the frog, then it's no big deal. We can paint over it with a darker shade. So I've got my Payne's Gray, I got cerulean blue, and then the yellow deep hue. So Payne's Gray is ready to go. I am going to get blue nice and wet and also the yellow. So we'll do the yellow first. And so I'll do this top area first. And then when we get into this yellow, kind of blends in. So we're just going to, it blends into the blue. So this is where we have to be careful, because looking at our color wheel, the blue and yellow will make green. So we don't want to overwork those areas. Otherwise, we're going to get green on this frog. And if that's what you're going for, that's totally fine. But I am looking at the reference photo and going off the reference photo for this one. So but you can make your froggy whatever color you want. We're just going to have to know that we're going to be careful when we go in. All right. So apparently when I opened my Payne's Gray, it exploded. Sometimes the paint gets along the grooves on the cap. And now that I've activated it with water, I can see it a little bit better. How rude. Okay. And now I need to get another paper towel. You know, Bob Ross made this look really easy. I guess he had the cute little saying about happy accidents and stuff. I should just always have paper towels close by. I'm going to go in and add some more yellow onto, well, actually, no. It's a tiny little bit. We'll see how far it goes. If we got to open it up, we will. That one was kind of hard to open. Forgot to turn on our sounds here. I also got to make sure I'm recording through my microphone. Yep. Okay. So that's why it was so easy for Bob Ross. He had a whole sound studio. He wasn't doing this all on his own. I'm over here by my lone, lonely, lonesome. Okay. And now we're going to go in with that yellow. Right along the top. So this guy is a poison dart frog, and they live in the rainforest. And this species in particular is called a dyeing poison dart frog, like dyeing like you're dyeing your hair. D-Y-E-I-N-G. And they're known for their yellow and blue color morph. The color morph just means the color variation that they are. But there are over 180 species of poison dart frogs. And they come in just about every single color you can imagine. I don't think there are purple ones. Editing Lauren, make sure you look that up to let our viewers know. And yourself, because I'm pretty curious about that. But I do know they come in, there's like a golden one, there's green, obviously yellow and blue, there's orange, green, so that's just about every color except for purple. And then there are hundreds of different color morphs within all of those guys. Okay, so now we've laid down this yellow, and then as we start getting closer to the back end of him, it fades out. So I am going to, see, I went over the line a little bit right there, and I'm not going to worry about it because we're going in with a darker color later. So I'm watering my brush down and just using a wet, clean brush and bringing the color down. Just letting it blend naturally, getting a nice gradient effect as we're going down. It's almost getting to be like a white. So I'm going to clean off my brush again and then bring that down some more. Do this on the other side. So the bright color pattern actually serves a purpose for this animal. It lets predators know, hey, I am toxic. You do not want to eat me. You will not feel very good. And they're not born toxic. They are actually, all right, now I gotta focus. So it's a little bit yellow up in here and through here, and then it starts to fade. Actually, it's kind of light all around. And you know what? I did not get this little area right here. He's got a little bit of a yellow spot right bloop, back there. So I'll just add that in now. No big deal. And if you don't want to add that in, if you forgot it like I did, you can either let it be and then just paint it in black, or you can freehand it. That's fine too. And it is a light yellow, so I'm going in with a light yellow. See, I always do that when I'm recording with you guys. I never let the pen dry, and then it starts to, Micron is the waterproof pen. However, you have to let it dry, otherwise it will start to bleed. So I just took a paper towel, dabbed it up real quick. We'll focus on this area, and then we'll get that in just a second. So these guys are not born poisonous. They are poisonous and not venomous. So poison means if you eat something, it makes you sick or unalives you. I'm not sure what the rules are with YouTube and if they police what you're saying. So we'll say unalive instead of the K word. And venom means if you are injected by something that the animal has, it can harm you. So right around here, I'm letting it fade to almost white. I'm just drying off my brush. Now I'm going to pick it up a little bit. So I want to be careful not to get too much yellow down there. We don't want to be making green. And bring this down. Okay. So animals that are venomous. You got stingrays, like bees. So that would be an example of venom. Snakes, if a snake bites you, that's venomous, like a rattlesnake or something like that. Okay, not forget the back end. So these guys are poisonous. They're not born poisonous. They actually have to eat certain things that will make them poisonous. So ants, termites, and other small insects that live in the rainforest area. So we got a couple areas that are wet. It is a little bit blue right along the mouth, so we can paint that in. So we got nothing that's wet around there, so we are safe to paint in that area. It's a lighter blue. Let me just make sure I have a light tea-like consistency. So the reason they're called poison dart frogs is because the indigenous people in the area would collect the secretions from the frog's skin, that's the part that is toxic and poisonous, and apply it to a dart and use the dart for hunting. It's a pretty ingenious way of doing things. All right, that's dry, so I'm going to get the back leg in with the blue. I have to turn you on your side. I heard the garage, so my son might be home. I'll water that down a little bit more. If you go outside the line a little bit, sometimes I take a nice clean dry finger and rub in towards the painting. That helps to remove that. Or you can take a clean paper towel. So now I'm going to go in with this leg over here. And just get the whole thing blue. I might add some spots in there later. It was kind of hard to see in the reference image. But it does kind of look like he's got some spots on there. I do like this color for the frog. I think it's a good color for the frog. However, notice, I don't know if my watercolor paint just came in old or what, but my cerulean blue, hey buddy. I am recording. How was work?
Okay.
Good. You got your medicine?
Yeah.
You didn't get a haircut?
I showed up 15 minutes before they closed, and she was like, "Oh, we just cleaned up." I actually asked her, like, "Hey, are you guys still accepting customers?"
Yeah.
She's like, "Well, we just cleaned up. Like, if you could come back tomorrow, that would be great." And I was like, "All right, fine. I'll just come back tomorrow."
Did you make an appointment?
No, because I don't know when I'll be able to exactly.
That's fair enough.
I don't even know if I go to that same one because I'd be coming straight from Good Shepherd.
Yeah.
But I am still going to do that tomorrow after Mass. I'm probably going to push that time that people come over back up.
I'm not entertaining your friends.
Yeah. That's why I said I'm going to push day back up.
Yeah. All right. So I am just going to paint right over all those little spots because it'll take too much time otherwise. And it's fine because we're going over it with a dark color in a little bit. Oh, but my cerulean blue, that is separating from the binder. So when you make watercolors, you have a binder mixing with a pigment. So I don't know what's going on with that. So I don't know if it's just all cerulean blues, something about the pigment, or if it's just that one tube in particular. Taking some clean water and blending this out a little bit. I got a little hair in there. I want to make sure I get that because if it dries, it's still gonna show evidence that there was a hair there. All right, now that we're up into the belly here, looks like it was kind of yellow there. And maybe up here. So I'm going to do this and then blend it out. And try not to get those two areas to touch. Are you hungry, buddy?
No.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
You seem kind of flustered when you came through the door.
I almost hit your car backing up.
You didn't hit it, did you?
No, it's like 200 away.
Thanks for not hitting my Jeep.
You're welcome.
I'm going to finish the blue on the leg here.
Hey, would you be okay to order canes tomorrow for the Super Bowl? I know you can't. I don't care, Siri. Calm down. I know you can't have that, but Grant suggested it, and it seems like it's a good idea. It's not pizza.
I thought you guys wanted to do a potluck.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're just bringing snacks now.
I mean, I can try. However, it is the Super Bowl, so
Yeah.
it might be kind of crazy. I'll look into it in a second. Oh, looks like it's a little yellow right there, and then black. It also looks like it's yellow at his ankle. I'm gonna do some yellow there. And also that yellow right in his belly. And it looks like those toes are a little bit white or a lighter blue. So I'm going to lift a little bit and push away. So lift and push. And in between, just drying your brush off. All right. We'll get the blue on his forearm, which starts right around here. I guess when I did my drawing, I was getting confused by how reflective he was and shiny, and the black connects here and kind of separates. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this effect over here and kind of make it lighter in between, just so that it flows with the rest of the painting. Connor, can you let Fiona out, please? Hey, C,
What?
can you let Fiona out, please?
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy. What? Oh, you're cleaning up. Okay, thanks. Did work not go okay? So I got a little bit of that blue over top the yellow. So I just was able to take a paper towel and bring that up. And it's going to be black there, so I'm not too worried about filling that all in. And then going in and getting the feet. George, did you want to go outside too? Is your girl outside and you didn't get to go out? Okay. Let me... Hey, buddy. Georgie would like out too. Thanks, bud. I'm just going to go in with some clean water and Clean up that toe a little bit and just let it bleed out. It fades out as it goes into the toe. I didn't realize when they chose to do this guy as a project how much fading it was going to be and blending and doing different values on this guy. Which is good practice. All right. So there we have basically the first layer down. Now, since we started up here with the yellow, we can go in and start painting right here and right here. Just make sure your paints are wet, and mine still are. And you start painting in those Payne's gray or black areas, or whichever color you decided for your frog. This is the part of the painting, the phase of the painting, where you really have to trust the process because it looks kind of ugly right now. But once it's all done, it'll all come together. Making sure my hand's nice and dry. I am going in very carefully along those edges. This is a good time to practice brush control. As it's drying, I can see how it's got a little bit of highlight right here as it's just drying naturally, and it kind of looks like that on the reference photo, so I am okay with that. I'm going to leave it as is, just for some natural highlight. And in fact, over by his back end, just a little bit of a highlight. So I'm just going to lift some paint up while it's still wet, and it'll give the impression of that highlight. So I like how that looks. So when I go in and start painting this area, I'm going to be sure to leave that tiny little nostril white. And I'm also going to avoid the eye area as best I can. Debating whether or not to leave the conversation with my son in or not. You know, I'm recording this at home. It's not even my home. I'm temporarily living with my parents until my son graduates from high school. So we didn't want to pull him out of high school as last year. And then I'm going to move down to be with my husband in Florida, but I kind of took over the whole kitchen area. Probably include a little picture. That's my makeshift studio for right now. I am eternally thankful for this space while I have it. And, you know, I want to be an artist. I don't have a studio space. I had a studio space for a short amount of time, and then I had to move out just with everything happening in life. And I still wanted to teach people how to paint. And that's kind of hard to do sometimes. You don't always know. Sometimes you can partner with different art studios or art stores. Like last year, I did a class with Plaza Art. That was a ton of fun. But I don't know when or where the next teaching opportunity is going to come right now. And I travel so much that it's hard to make commitments. So that's why I really wanted to push to do YouTube. And, you know, you could probably hear the dogs in the background and everything. You know, this is real. This is real life. And if I can be doing this painting while instructing and making a YouTube, then you can most certainly be painting too. Anybody can do this. With some practice and some patience. So I'll probably leave in that audio. It's real. It's raw. You know, maybe someday I'll be super fancy with everything, but you know, this is good for right now. It's still helping me fulfill my purpose in life, and that is talking about wildlife and teaching people. What did I say? There you go. Can't think and paint at the same time. My purpose is teaching people to paint and also teaching people about wildlife and the world around them. So that is helping me to fulfill those things right now. Sometimes you got to do the best that you can with what you got. If you want to do something, you can always try and find a way to make it work. It does on the reference photo look a little bit lighter right here. So I'm going to leave that kind of speckly as is because it almost replicates how the skin looks on the reference photo. But I am going to focus it being darker right along the bottom here because that's how it is on the image. I think I'm going to have to get some more gray out of the tube in a second. I swear when I opened it up the last time, it kind of like made a fart sound as it opened up. And then it like plopped onto the palette and I swear it smelled. I was looking at the dogs like, was that you making that noise and smell? But I don't know. I don't know if when paint goes bad, if it smells like farts. I just recorded the manatee tutorial right before this, and I forgot to share my favorite fact about manatees. So I'll do that now, and I hope you don't mind, because I'm already talking about farts, so I might as well send it and keep talking about farts. So manatees control their buoyancy with farting. And you have to giggle when you tell that fact too. But a couple years ago, I was able to go with my nephews from my husband's side of the family. And Gunnar wanted to go in the water and get a little bit closer to the manatee. And I was carrying him and I was standing in the water. And we saw a manatee come by and then it laid down, took a little nap. And we were waiting and waiting. And I told them they control their buoyancy by farting. And we waited long enough. We saw the manatee fart together. And he giggled. And it was cute. And he talked about it for the longest time because he got to see... We told him the fact. And then he got to see it in person. Because it was up at the surface. Took a breath. And it farted. And went back down. He's like, oh, you did it, Auntie Lolo. All my nieces and nephew call me Auntie Lolo, and I love it. It's my favorite thing to be called in the world other than mom. So that was a good memory. I don't really have any memories with poison dart frogs. I have been fortunate enough to see them at, zoos and aquariums. And they are super cute to look at. They eat really teeny tiny, like fruit flies and things like that when they're at zoos and aquariums, I do believe. It is really cute to watch them eat that. And poison dart frogs are active during the day. They're diurnal, so they are a good animal to view at a zoo or aquarium. All right. Our little froggy friends starting to come together. Now I'm going to get the black on the belly. I'm going to open this up again. I'm going to move it over here. If it plops out again, I want it on camera. No, didn't really plop out. All right. Oh, that's weird. It came out just fine. I wonder if it just separated at the top. So before you could see like it was almost a tan-like color that was around the edge. So that was the binder. Actually, there was a phase when I was first getting into watercolor where I was making my own watercolor binder and getting pigments and making my own watercolor. That's a ton of fun to do, but it does take a while and it is kind of messy. but you can really create whatever colors you want in as much quantity as you want. And I am interested in when things settle down a little bit after my son graduates and I'm all moved in. Looking into doing some natural pigments with watercolors. But I've made glow-in-the-dark watercolors before. Some neon shades. What else have I done? Some glittery ones. There was a TikTok creator that I follow, and she is a resin artist, and she makes really pretty things. Eventually, she got her own mica pigment line with the intent of mixing it with resin. I don't know that she knew people would make watercolors with it, but that's what I did. And they were so pretty. Yeah, my brush is starting to fall apart. I don't know if it was sealed all the way. It's getting water inside there and expanding and making that paint crack off. That is why it is always important that when you are not using your brush, you do not leave it in the water because it will ruin your brush. Every time I teach a class, as soon as I know I forgot to explain to the classroom not to leave their brush in because they'll just boop and leave it in. And I'm like, no, my brushes. And you get the little black spots in his leg. Oh, that's what I was talking about. Leaving stuff in while I'm recording just because, this is real right now. I think my son is stressing because he's having a bunch of friends over tomorrow for the Super Bowl. They're planning food and all that stuff. But, I don't think I even know who's playing in the Super Bowl tomorrow. I want to say the Seahawks because I think I saw a story about one of the players that was born premature and might have even died, and they were able to resuscitate him. And now he's a successful football player. That is a happy story. We need more happy stories right now. I think poison dart frogs are so beautiful. In the Ohio region, we do have a couple different types of frogs. We got bullfrogs, green frogs. Trying to think what else. We do have some types of tree frogs that can be really pretty, but nothing as bright and beautiful as this. The only thing I can think of that kind of looks similar to this would be like a spotted salamander, which that was in a painting project we did a couple lessons ago. So if you want to check that out, you've already got the Payne's gray and you got the yellow. You can go back in and do another project. But frogs and salamanders are both amphibians. And that means they go through a metamorphosis phase. They go through metamorphosis. So they start life one way, and then they go through a change, and then their adult form is something completely different. So typically, you always got to say typically when you're talking about science and animals, because there's exceptions to every rule, it seems like. But they'll start off as little eggs, and then they'll hatch into tadpoles. And then if it's like a frog, the tadpole will grow legs, arms and legs, and the body will absorb the tail. And then they will spend majority of their life on land, especially with these poison dart frogs live on land. I remember one year my husband and I, you know what, come to think of it, we probably saw a migration. It was right before he got deployed when I was pregnant with Connor. We went to Hocking Hills. We got a cabin. And we were driving up the road late at night, and there were just hundreds of frogs all along the road. And it wasn't a busy road. So I got out of the car. I feel like a lot of these stories I'm getting out of the car and helping animals. If you do that, always be safe. Look both ways. But I got out of the car and was helping to move the frogs out of the way so we didn't run them over. But there were, and this was 2008. So it was really before cameras were good on phones and everything. Although I did have the wherewithal to take a whole bunch of photos of the cabin we were in. It was, I believe, like March or April, and it was super cold. We went kayaking, and it was snowing at one point. It was another one of those harsh winters like we're having this year, and we didn't put the AC on at all because it was freezing, and they charged us our credit card $500 because they said the air conditioner was broke. And I was like, we didn't even touch your air conditioner. So I had proof and we were able to dispute it. So now that it has become my thing, anytime we leave any place, I am taking photos of every single room just in case. And it was the type of cabin where we didn't even check in with anybody. They just left the door open and the key was sitting on the table. And then when you left the key on the table. So that doesn't seem safe. But we have not gotten a cabin through them again since. But I am excited for this snow to melt and for it to start warming up because I do want to go try and find some frogs and salamanders. I know the Cincinnati Nature Center has a lot of great programs. They talk about salamanders and they'll show you where there are eggs in the water and safely demonstrate netting and showing you some animals up close and then safely putting them back in the water. And yeah, so I'm excited for that. But then I'm also excited to move down to Florida, and my goal is to eventually help out with some sea turtle patrol. So I have a little bit too much paint on my brush, so I'm just kind of doing a bunch of spots all at once. I'm going to dry my brush off a little bit and spread it out. I really feel like this guy is starting to come together. You just gotta trust the process and keep working through the ugly stage. It's for your painting and in life. You get ugly stages every once in a while. Sometimes you just gotta keep pushing through. Then you will end up with something pretty. All right, so I'll get the black spots on his arm. He looks weird without an eyeball right now, but it will come together, I promise. And actually, while we're talking about the eyeball, and because I have a bad habit of not letting the pen dry, I'm gonna take my micron and I'm gonna color in this part of the eye. And I'll give it plenty of time to dry. You could use the Payne's Gray. I just like going in with a marker. Just make sure it's waterproof. Okay, it looks a little less creepy now. Every once in a while, when I'm doing a pet portrait and I'm needing help to push through the ugly stage, I will send the photo to my husband for some encouragement. He always encourages me to keep going. But he will point out that the eyes look creepy. Because I usually save them for last because usually it requires a lot of detail. And it's my favorite part to do. I don't get too detailed with you guys. But we do add a little bit of depth. We add a shadow and usually a highlight on a lot of the things that we've done so far. And that really, I think that really is the secret, the trick to making that eye come alive is adding some shadow and adding a highlight. Trying to think what other facts I got for you guys on poison dart frogs. We spent much time watching Animal Planet and Discovery Center, or Discovery Channel? Yeah, Discovery Channel. Discovery Center. Wasn't that something from the 80s? That's a throwback. But yeah, lots of time watching TV shows, Jeff Corwin, Steve Irwin. He was the best. Jack Hanna. Love all those shows. My son loves all those shows. And then, my free time, I read on up about animal facts and stuff like that. And we usually go, if we're traveling, we go to zoos and aquariums. Like this past Christmas time, I think that might be where this photo's from. It's the Chattanooga Zoo. We were driving down to Florida, my son and I, and we stopped at the Chattanooga Zoo. And that was a ton of fun. We always try and go to whatever zoo or aquarium is around. Try and make sure that they are reputable. And then there are always questionable things about zoos and aquariums. Of course, you always want animals to be in the wild. But a lot of times, the animals that zoos and aquariums have are sick, need a rehab, or can't be released out into the wild for some reason. And sometimes you see animals you might not ever know about. And maybe that inspires somebody to do something to help protect where they live or help preserve them in some way. So yeah, there is mixed feelings about zoos and aquariums for sure. Actually, we are lucky enough in the Cincinnati area to have, I think, the second largest zoo. And it's like world renowned, and they do all sorts of stuff for conservation and we're almost done with this little frog. I got this little bit of a spot. If you wanted to make him a little bit more realistic, oh, I gotta get the spots on his belly too. He's got a ton more spots all throughout. But I mean, just like when you're painting a mammal or a bird, you can't get every single hair. You can't get every single feather. You will be painting forever. And I think in a lot of cases that can suck the fun out of it. So you really want to just give the suggestion sometimes. But if you wanted to go back in and add more spots or different dots or whatever, you could do that. Here's your frog. And then yeah. Just afraid I'm going to lose the definition of his arm by putting the black and the black next to each other. And it should be all right. Because it's got lighter down here. Or in here. So we can still tell. His little arm is right there. It's not going to blend in and get lost. All right. And I was going to add some spots on the other side. Where do I want to do that? We can add one right there, right there. And we can go bloop. You don't have to do this part. It wasn't on the outline or anything, but you certainly could. And one right there. All right. So now I'm gonna go in with a very light gray for the eyeball. So on that reference, you almost lose the eye because it is practically the same color as him. I'm also going to take my... We'll wait. Are we going to wait on the black micron? Yeah, we'll wait. Because I did just let it dry. So light gray. Go ahead and paint in the eyeball. And dry it up just a hair so it's not puddled in there. Then I'm going to take a thicker gray, almost like straight out of the tube, consistency. Because then I want to go in right along the edges, and that'll create some depth. Because while it's still wet, it'll bloom into the center. And I feel like it makes it look like an eyeball. It's a nice, quick and easy way to do the eye. Also go in along the black part of the eye. It looks a little crazy now, but I'm gonna make that dry and we'll come back to it and work on it just a little bit. All right, so I'm happy with how the eye looks. It is gray, kind of like in the photo, but a little bit lighter than in real life. Am I gonna use the micron? No, I'm gonna use Payne's Gray and get right above the eye with some thick paint. Just kind of creating that ridge right above, like that eyelid. And kind of right down there. I'm gonna leave that light as like a natural highlight. Make that a little bit thicker. It's kind of bumpy. It just kind of keeps going down, doesn't it? Also goes up a little bit. No! Why did that instantly dry too? No! It's okay. It'll be okay. I'm just taking a little bit of paper towel, getting it wet. And I'm going to scrub in there. This is what I get for being picky. Whew. I almost threw that in the fire. Ah! Well, I gave the black parts time to dry, mostly. I am going to grab a little bit more yellow, kind of cover up what I just did. See? I had people tell me that watercolor is not forgiving, and I wholeheartedly disagree. You just, I think, have to not be afraid to try different things in order to make it work. All right, he does have a little bit of a highlight right above where we just did that black. So I'm going in with some white gouache. And kind of starts right around here. And then kind of spreads out down here a lot. We're kind of making that highlight. I'm going to get a clean dry brush and kind of smooth that out a little bit. You know what? Internally, I told myself I wasn't going to do this step. But now here we are. We're doing the highlight. But if you don't want to do that step, you don't have to. I do think it helps to add depth and dimension to your piece. And I don't want to gatekeep. I want to help you guys out as much as possible. So I'm blending it as much as I can towards the top, kind of leaving the bottom line white. And it helps to add that little bit of highlight and sheen he's got going on his back. All right, but he's still kind of, his eyeballs a little lost in the sauce, isn't it? So what I see on the reference photo is I see a little bit of white along the outside edge. I'm doing that with some gouache. I also see like a little shimmer or shine, so I'm just putting in that little dot. It's also got a little bit of white right along this ridge here. And I'm going to grab my pen, make that line a little bit darker. Also towards the front. It's helping it to stand out a little bit more. And then I'm also going to add a little black dot right by the nostril. So that's actually the nostril. The white part is more of the highlight. And then his eyeball has kind of a translucent white mark right here. I like doing the translucent reflection where you can still see the black part a little bit, because I really feel like that adds that depth, that realisticness to the reflection. He's got like a line and then another line. And then there's like two longer lines that are about the same size, but they're much darker. Get that wet to get my bristles together a little bit more. I'm just starting at the edge of that eyeball, working out. Or, I'm sorry, working in. He's got another little one like right there. And clean up my brush and kind of add the more translucent part back in. It's faded a little bit. And right there. Going in with a little bit heavier white. Just touching those back up. Sometimes you got to go over it a few times. Those are probably, they're like very perpendicular lines. It almost looks like it was like the lighting at on the ceiling at the zoo we were at. And I am going to add just a little dot right there. It wasn't in there, but I think a little dot kind of helps to add. I guess he does kind of have a little bit of a dot right there. Just not as bright. I'm going to make it bright so it sticks out. All right. We have our poison dart frog. Ta-da! Congratulations on finishing your poison dart frog painting. Make sure that you sign your piece. Once it is signed, there is no more going back and retouching it. It is complete. Congratulations again. And if you've learned anything about poison dart frogs or painting, please let it inspire you to do something positive for nature today. Until next time, get outside, see what develops, and stay wild.